Can the Dallas Cowboys compete against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. It's Friday before an Eagles game. If no other thing, then it's at least exciting. I'm ready to get into this and talk some Cowboys-Eagles. I'm always ready to get into it and talk about Cowboys-Eagles.
Yeah, this feels fun. We were doing the crossover yesterday, and Lou DiBiase and I were talking about when's the last time the Cowboys and Eagles have both been really good and playing like a meaningful game.
Mid 2010s, maybe, or
that's what we came back to. 2014, the Philadelphia game, the one that Dez caught 3 touchdowns. Like that's the last time both teams have been playing really well going into a matchup.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, honestly, the NFL is better when the Cowboys-Eagles game means something. I think I think it's the best rivalry in sports. But that's obviously very well argued by others. But I love it, and I'm glad that it's not. Look, I love when the Cowboys show up and give a beatdown in Philadelphia by 25 points. Yes, I love it, and I'm certainly used to it. But I do think it's more fun when both of these teams are playing well and have something meaningful to play for.
And what's funny is that there's been a lot of these primetime games before where backup quarterbacks have had to play, whether it's Kyle Orton, was that 2012, 2013? I call that the Brandon Boykin game. Or Jeff Garcia on Christmas Day. Remember when Garcia beat the Cowboys? Was that 2000? Was that 2009?
Yes. I think so.
The Cowboys were playing really well and Garcia beats them. So who knows? Anything can happen in these games. We do know that Cooper Rush is going to be starting at quarterback for the Cowboys. We should at least start there. Yep. Dak Prescott worked out on Thursday. He was actually limited in practice, which is great.
Fantastic.
Jerry Jones said he was a little bit sore, not ready quite to come back yet, but it's all just encouraging nonetheless, right, Landon?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point we're hopeful for next week. We're hopeful for the Lions. We'll see how it goes, but I think that if he was going to play against the Lions, all of these things that we saw this week are good signs for that, for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Cowboys offense with Cooper Rush in this game. It's going to be a challenge, more so than any of these other games. How do they put up points in this game? Because every time I look at this matchup, I keep thinking it's going to be a struggle for them to get more than 17 points on offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to have to find a way to, just to generate a little bit of a run game against a team that hasn't given up a lot of rush yards. And then I think they're going to have to find a way to have their wide receivers win big outside against some of these corners. I mean, I think Philadelphia has got some obviously they've got talent all around. We've talked about how talented this team is. I do think that there are ways to kind of generate some yardage outside if they can find the time to get the ball out to guys like Gallup, to get the ball out to CeeDee Lamb. And I think that there is something to be, there is some holes, not holes in the defense, but there's places to attack, soft spots in the defense in the middle of the field as well. If they can find a way to get their tight ends involved, in the middle of the field to kind of control some of the coverage, they're going to want to play. Philly's going to want to play a lot of cover 4. They're going to want to kind of play a lot of coverages that will keep things safe on first down so that they can also continue to stop the run. So I tend to think that the Cowboys have got to find a way to throw the ball early in the downs and
it can't just
attack.
be run 3rd and 4 pass. Like
Yeah,
you're not going to have success that way in this game.
They need to run the football
yes.
Well, but they can't get into a kind of a rhythmic situation where what you just said, run pass, because it's just gonna it allows so that if you don't have a successful run, one of those 2 downs, that
Kills
Philadelphia can get into a situation where they can pin their ears back, and that's not necessarily what you want in this situation, especially with Cooper Rush. So I do think they're going to need to find some efficiency on 1st and 2nd down. And if they do, they can get into short 3rd down situations. And I think if they do that, they should be able to find a way to kind of continue. Philadelphia hasn't been unstoppable on defense. They haven't been like, fantastic on 3rd downs necessarily. They're kind of middle of the pack as far as that goes. So I think that if you can get into some manageable 3rd down situations, like I said, there are some matchups where you can win on the outside. I think you should be able to move the ball a little bit, and you're going to need to play your best offensive game, I think, to win this game for the Cowboys.
Yeah, this is a game the Cowboys cannot afford to have false starts, illegal formation, guys down the field. Like you just can't have those type of penalties because it's going to be such an uphill struggle anyways on offense. So don't hurt yourself. I feel like this needs to be a big Michael Gallup game, right?
Sure.
It feels like Darius Slay, or at least that's the news right now, is Darius Slay is going to follow CeeDee Lamb. I think Gallup should have the advantage on James Bradbury, who's having a nice season, but we've seen the Cowboys get the best of Bradbury in the past. I think if they want chunk passing plays in this game, it's going to have to come from Gallup.
Yeah, and I think the other big thing that they're going to need to do too is continue. And this is going to be tough because regression is coming. Continue to control the ball and maintain possession of the ball. They haven't had the turnovers that yet, and that's where Philly has really had an advantage, right? Is that they've turned the ball over turned the ball over on defense without turning the ball over on offense.
The turnover differential, I think, is number 1 or number 2.
It's number 1 without a doubt, and I'm pretty sure that they're also technically number 1 in best at not giving the ball away and the best at taking the ball away.
Yeah.
So it's pretty severe. I think that they're due for some regression. So I think for the Cowboys offense, and we'll talk about the defense, they are going to need some help. So they are going to need the defense to find a way to take the ball away, give them short fields, because look, I mean, like without Dak, this offense is a little bit overmatched, as in comparison to what facing on the other side. I don't think that's unreasonable to say. No. So they're going to need the ball to bounce their way. I certainly think it can, and we'll talk all about that when we talk about the defense. But I think for the offense, efficiency, making sure that you're able to, somehow get chunk plays while also being very careful not to turn the ball over yourself.
I will also say special teams is going to be huge in this game for a couple of different reasons, right? Like when you do get the ball, don't necessarily take it out of the end zone and end up on the 12-yard line. Like it's going to be hard enough for this offense. Don't make yourself have to go an extra 12 yards just to get back to where you should be starting. Brian Anger, no more of these JV punts that go for 20 yards after the offense has a bad possession, right? Like it's going to be okay to punt, but if you punt, you got to pin the Eagles back inside their own 20-yard line. That's where the special teams unit really needs to help them. And Brett Maher, like when the Cowboys do put together a drive and they are unable to score a touchdown, make your kicks like he has all season long. That kind of stuff is going to end up, if the Cowboys can kind of ace all those parts of the game, they'll give themselves a chance on offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there are paths to victory here for sure.
You just have to be kind of flawless in the things that are, the little edges that you can get. You just need to win those.
Yeah, and just be efficient. Just don't shoot yourself in the foot consistently. Find ways to hold on to the ball, and then just try to continue to get first downs. You need to extend drives. Give your defense a little bit of a break as much as you can.
All right, let's talk about the defense. But before we do that, we want to tell you about LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and, most importantly, for free. All you have to do is add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so that you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That is linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's talk about the most important part in this game, the Cowboys defense. They've been incredible over the last couple of weeks. This is going to be their toughest challenge yet. This is a super balanced offense that can run the crap out of the ball, that can create big plays, and they make you play 11-on-11 football. Do you think the defense can stand up to this challenge?
Well, first of all, I'd argue that they are not balanced. This is a run-first defense.
Yes.
They are 29th in percentage of pass play in the NFL. They would rather run the football.
They would rather run,
time.
but they have the ability to throw the ball all over the field.
That's the thing, right? They have by far the most efficient passing game in the NFL. Yep. Like the yards per attempt, the completion percentage are all incredibly high. So what they're doing is they're running the football in a wide variety of ways. They're including Jalen Hurts in that. They're using all kinds of different concepts. They're leaning on their offensive line. And then by the time that it's time to throw the football, they've opened things up so much that Jalen Hurts is throwing into wide open windows. Mm-hmm. I will say this: after watching this, the Arizona game again against Philadelphia, I do feel like the Cowboys defense has a real chance here. They did not call that game, Eagles offensively, like they wanted Jalen Hurts to be a drop back passer. And so I'm continuing to say that if the Cowboys can find a way to put them into passing situations, which I do think is possible. I mean, despite the fact that they are incredibly, leaning into their run game and they have more yards per game and more rushes per game than any other team in the NFL, they haven't been incredibly efficient running the football necessarily. They're really just kind of middle of the pack. They're just averaging barely over 4 yards a carry. So if the Cowboys can find ways to get them into passing situations specifically, they're going to want to try to force the ball to A.J. Brown. They're going to want to try to do tight end and running back screens. They're not trying to throw the ball down the field regularly in drop back situations. And when they do, they have had success. But I think that this is one area where the Cowboys can be better than the teams that the Eagles have played previously in this situation.
There's only been one game this year where the Eagles have really gotten behind early, and that's against Jacksonville, and their offense was able to bail them out in the second quarter, and then they basically fell flat, right? The Eagles have had the benefit of they've been up a lot in almost all of these games, so that way they can just lean on their rushing attack, and they don't have to get in drop back situations. We say this, though, every week, Landon. Like, if the Cowboys can get in 3rd and 7 or plus, they're the best defense in the NFL. I mean, they are. I've never seen a Cowboys defense like this, where when it's 3rd and 7, it's almost a guaranteed punt coming up. It's just, can they get there? Because I'm worried that the Eagles are just going to go run, and hey, now it's 3rd and 1. We have the option to run, or we're going to hit a big pass down the field. That's where this game gets really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you go back and watch those games, like, the Eagles are top 5 in points scored this year so far. But if you go back and watch, like you see it, if you break it down by quarter, they're like bottom 5 in scoring in the first quarter. They're bottom 5 in scoring in the third quarter. They're bottom 10 in scoring in the fourth quarter. But they are the #1 scoring second quarter team in the NFL.
Exactly.
By far.
That's what it is.
And so if you could find a way to survive their adjustments on what you're doing in the second quarter, it's not like they've been, unstoppable throughout games. They've been very up and down throughout these games.
They just have one quarter where they blow you out, and then that's most of the teams they've played haven't had the offensive firepower to kind of come back, whether that's Washington or the Cardinals or Jacksonville. And I don't know if Dallas does either, but they might have the defense to not allow that outburst to happen.
Yeah, and I think, what the Cowboys need to do is put this all on Jalen Hurts, make him beat them. And I look, I think Hurts has played fantastic. I think Hurts has played fantastic in the context of what they've provided for him.
Yeah.
Take that context away from him. Do not allow them to, run at 5+ yards a clip and then just let him sit back there with an RPO and a quick toss out to AJ Brown and have AJ Brown miss 5 tackles and get 40 yards. Yeah, the Cowboys got to tackle very solidly. They need to read their keys and trust them in this game because they're going to see all this stuff. They're going to, you're going to get upfield and realize that no one blocked you, and then turn around and realize that the tackle's out there blocking for a Dallas Goedert screen. So
right.
I think that if the Cowboys can just kind of pick up on some of these cues, and to be fair, you go back and watch, Arizona was picking up on all of that stuff.
Yeah.
If you saw, like, it started to get a little bit predictable.
They were reading some of the screens. Like there was a play where Hurts made a check. Hurts made a check at the line, and everybody on Arizona recognized it right away. Now they didn't stop it because.
So I do think. Look, I mean, Eagles have been fantastic. The Cowboys have played fantastic. One of these teams is due for some regression here, and the team that is the one that regresses, either the Cowboys in defense or the Eagles in turnover efficiency. That's likely going to be the situation that is kind of the tumbler for one of these teams to go down.
I think if I'm Dan Quinn this week, I go to Trevon Diggs and Anthony Brown and say, you guys are going to be the difference in whether we win or lose this game, because we're going to keep a bunch of guys at the line of scrimmage, and we're going to dare Jalen Hurts to beat you guys in one-on-one matchups. And I mean, as good as AJ Brown and AJ Brown and Devontae Smith have been, Cowboys corners are pretty good as well. I'm okay letting this game come down to Jalen Hurts attacking those guys in one-on-one coverage. If it means they're stopping the run, they're getting in long third downs, like that's the way I think the Cowboys should play it.
Yeah, and I think it's down to the fact that they can't throw the ball downfield because we're getting to the quarterback too quick, and then suddenly it becomes a short passing game. Cowboys are in this.
Yeah,
they have a way to win that game. I think that's a game that they can win, even if Jalen Hurts completes 75% of his passes for 3 yards per completion. Cowboys will rally to tackle. They'll put him in bad situations. They're not going to be able to drive up and down the field living like that. There's going to be a 3rd and long situation, and then that's when the Dallas Cowboys defense can take advantage.
And I'm really curious to see how the Cowboys use Micah in this game, because will they use him as a spy? Will they use him going up against Jordan Maitai at left tackle, who's coming back from a shoulder injury, or do they just kind of move him all over? I know Nick Sirianni this week said that they're going to count for Micah on every single play, but that's really hard to do if Parsons is moving around and you can't get a beat on where he's playing. It's just one of several matchups, so I think it's going to be fascinating in this game.
Yeah, and another thing that hopefully that Sirianni hasn't noticed is that we're kind of counting on that, right? Like, please focus on Parsons, and while you're looking over here, we've got this other thing coming at you right here.
Yeah.
So I think that that sack that they pointed out with the sidelines, sounds of the sideline that Parsons and Lawrence were talking about, right, where he's coming up the middle, and one of DeMarcus Lawrence's guys left DeMarcus Lawrence to go block Micah Parsons. Guess what? Didn't end up well. That's the kind of thing that you're hoping to kind of see this week against the Eagles.
From the Cowboys side of things, I just want this game to be close in the fourth quarter. Like, if this is a 4-point game going into the fourth quarter, you've got a chance, right? And like on the road with the backup quarterback, that's all you really want, is a chance to steal this game. If you can play fundamentally sound football, cut down on the penalties, have no turnovers, get a couple stops on defense, I think there's a good chance that you're still in this game as we get to like 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And at that point, who knows what happens? These games, the NFC East games, are wild. They're random. That's all you can really hope for in this one.
If you can keep the game close, you can keep running the football. And that's what you want. Because look, like we said, the Eagles defense is averaging almost 5 yards per carry, allowing almost 5 yards per carry. The reason that teams aren't just continuing to run the football and all day against the Eagles is because the Eagles offense is scoring points, forcing them to throw the football more. So what you want is the Cowboys to continue to keep in a balanced game. They want the game to allow to go in such a way that it allows the Cowboys offense to remain balanced. If the Cowboys offense is able to remain balanced, there's hay to be made against this defense with Tony Pollard, with Ezekiel Elliott. There are things that they can do to kind of continually keep ahead of the chains and move the football. If Philly gets out to a big lead and we get into the fourth quarter and the Cowboys are down 10 points, it's just they have great pass rushers too. You don't want Brandon Graham pinning his ears back against the tackles that we have out there. You don't want any of these guys. Fletcher Cox still, Hassan Reddick. These guys on the outside and inside to come after you with knowing that it's just a pass. So the Cowboys have got to find a way to keep the game close, which allows them to play with their entire playbook. And I think that will put the Philadelphia Eagles defense in a bad situation. They don't want to have to continually stop the run. Honestly, their defense a lot this year reminds me of kind of our defense a little bit last year in some ways, where they're relying on turnovers. They're relying on their offense, getting them into game scripts that is advantageous for what they want to do on defense. Break that up. Do not allow them to get into that situation, make that defense uncomfortable and continue to dominate the clock. Because that's the other thing that the Eagles have done, right? Is dominate the time of possession. Yep. Normally, I would say that doesn't matter as much. But when you have an offense that can run the ball the way that they do, it's a great way to choke out the game and close it out.
All right, let's make predictions for this game. But before we do that, we want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game that you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It is the fastest and the easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events, including NFL, NBA, MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. And on BetOnline right now, the Cowboys are 6.5-point underdogs in this game. The line's been kind of creeping up all week long. Landon, what is your official prediction for week 6?
Well, the official prediction, and I made this earlier on a hit this morning at WFAA as well. Part of me feels like this is going to be a low-scoring game. I mean, I think that makes sense, or at least you want that if you're a Cowboys fan. Mm-hmm. But I do think that it will be a little bit more than what we've seen these last few games. I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win. I don't know how much I necessarily fully believe in it, but I don't necessarily fully believe in the Eagles either. So I'm picking them to win 27-24. But I'm also going to predict that one of those touchdowns for the Cowboys will be either a defensive or a special teams touchdown. Okay. So they scored 20 points, but they win with 27. Maybe on a Trayvon Diggs pick 6. How about that?
All right. A couple questions for you. Who needs to win this game more, the Cowboys or the Eagles?
I hate to say it, but I feel like it's the Cowboys that need to win.
Oh, see, I disagree with you. Go ahead.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Let's hear it. I've been listening too much to Daniel Houston.
No. Here's why I think the Eagles need to win it more than the Cowboys. They are at home playing a Cowboys team with a backup quarterback, with a rookie left tackle, with basically a brand new offensive line. If you want to really establish yourself as the favorites in the NFC East and an actual Super Bowl contender, you cannot let Cooper Rush walk into your stadium on Sunday Night Football and beat you.
That's a fair point, because just real quick, I would say, it's like you think about it like odds, who needs it? But the truth of the matter is, you're right. If the Cowboys walk into Philadelphia with a backup quarterback and, beat the Eagles, that's humiliating in a way that may linger for a little while for Philadelphia. So that's a good point.
I just think there's so much positive momentum right now. If they lose to Cooper Rush in Philadelphia, it's, hey, we're good. We can beat up on bad teams, but we're still not quite on that level. I think for Dallas in this game, they're kind of playing with house money, right?
That's true.
Nobody really expects them to beat the Eagles. Everybody's talking about how the Eagles are the Super Bowl favorites right now in the NFC. Dallas can come in this game and play pretty loose. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kellen Moore calls it that way, right?
I agree.
We've heard McCarthy talk about being more conservative when you need to be. I kind of don't think this is the game to be conservative, right? We saw against Minnesota last year when Cooper Rush played multiple trick plays. It just kind of sparked the offense. We haven't really seen that over the last couple of weeks. I wonder if this is the game where you might get a CeeDee Lamb pass to Michael Gallup, or you might see some weird Wildcat stuff with Pollard and Zeke in the backfield at the same time. I just think the Cowboys can play really loose. I'm not so sure the Eagles can in this one.
That's a very good point. I think that and I do think that too, the offense at this point may feel a little bit exposed after last week, the Philadelphia Eagles offense. So, I think you're convincing me. I like what you're saying. I like where you're going.
Eagles, but
yeah,
this game, kind of like we said like last week against the Rams, I think you're going to know in the first two possessions how the game was going, right? Like if the Cowboys start out on defense and they get a stop and they go down and get a field goal on their opening drive, you're going to feel like, okay, hey, they're in this thing. But if Cooper Rush gets the ball and they go 3 and out and the Eagles walk down and get a touchdown in the first drive, it could be trouble. It's just one of those games where you're going to know right away if this is coming down to the fourth, the final drive of the game or not.
Penalties will be a thing too. The Eagles are actually one of the teams that gets called for penalties a lot. And a lot of the times it's kind of that illegal man downfield because all the screens they call and that sort of thing, offsides. So that's something else to figure into this game. The Cowboys have somehow got to straddle the line between being efficient while also, throwing in a couple of big plays, trick plays, whatever you need to do to get the first down to kind of continue these drives.
31-13 Eagles.
Wow.
I made that big speech just to
bury the Cowboys. Is that what it is?
I think the Cowboys are more likely maybe to take a, not a night off, but like they've kind of done what they needed to do with Cooper Rush. And then maybe with that coming back against the Lions and the Bears over the next 2 weeks, I think they'll be okay.
Look, I'll say this. I don't anticipate. I mean, despite what my prediction is, I don't necessarily anticipate that the Cowboys win this game. If they played 10 times, right?
Yeah.
I do think that if the Cowboys do win,
we're having a whole different conversation.
Man, we're having a whole different conversation next week. Yeah, with being 5-1 ahead of the division and Dak coming back next week, and you're playing Detroit. It's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Listen, let's hope that you and I are having that conversation on Sunday night, because that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That is it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, all the same places that you get the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Please go check us out on YouTube. Subscribe over there. We would really, really appreciate it. Go follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I am at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy this awesome NFC East primetime game. We'll see you guys right back here on Monday. Thanks, everybody.